I call this meeting to order. Before we get started, the DSU acknowledges that Dalhousie University and the Dalhousie Student Union building are located on traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Dalhousie Student Union seeks to honor the relational treaty process and its programming, events, meetings, and interactions. We'll begin with roll call. Amina.
Present.
Masuma sent her regrets. Chantel.
Present.
Corey.
Aye.
Alex sent her regrets. Jeremy. Here. Katie George Jim.
Here.
Ali.
Here.
Nikunj sent his regrets. Liam.
Here.
Katie Douglas sent her regrets. Cameron.
Here.
Ashley sent her regrets. Erzu.
Here.
Kate.
Here.
Yasmin.
Hello.
Reese McDonald sent his regrets. Chelsea Cox sent her regrets. Chad.
Here.
Katie McClellan.
Here.
And Nita. Moving along then to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda as circulated? Ali and Corey. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Are there any amendments to the agenda? Amina has an amendment to the agenda.
Under new business?
Yes. So we have lots of new business, so you might want to include like specifically where you want it to go in new business.
So it looks like the solidarity motions are on there.
The solidarity motions are all on there because they were submitted in advance. Yes. Did you want to just put it on at the end?
Yeah.
Amina let me know before the meeting that she's submitting a motion to cancel the special general meeting happening tomorrow. Are there any other agenda items?
I would amend new business to move hiring and accommodation policies at the beginning of new business.
Okay.
Unless any objections.
I mean, we can vote on it as a group. Are there any other amendments?
Correction. You're still bringing it up.
Yeah. So, here. Great. Any other amendments to the agenda? All right. Is there any opposition to the amendments? Seeing none, they're carried on unanimous consent. Is there any opposition to adopting the agenda as amended? Seeing none, that's taken on unanimous consent. Move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder to approve the February 28th meeting minutes? Corey, Chantel, were there any amendments to the minutes for February 28th? Seeing none, is there any opposition to adopting the minutes as circulated? Seeing none, that's taken on unanimous consent. Moving along to the minutes of the March 7th meeting. Do I have a mover and a second to accept the March 7th meeting minutes as circulated? Corey and Katie McClellan. Are there any amendments to the March 7th meeting minutes? Is there any opposition to accepting the March 7th meeting minutes as circulated? Seeing none, that's taken on unanimous consent. Communications received. I received regrets from Nikunj, Chelsea, Katie Douglas, Masuma, Ashley, Reese, and Alex. Appointments. The Accessibility Fund Committee. I have received one nomination to the Accessibility Fund Committee. Reese McDonald self-nominated himself. We need a council member, I should be clear, on the Accessibility Fund. We need
to tuition and specifically looking at long-term plans. The stage of writing our
That would be the time, April 16th.
Any other questions for board docs? Move on to Senate caucus.
And we will no longer be accepting applications. Societies who have applied to apply for funds. But yeah, you're done for the semester, and folks are looking to apply for the spring and summer portion. That will begin May 1st. And if you have any questions, contact me for the executive admin at the front desk, which is execadm@dsu.ca.
Thank you, Chantel. Any questions for Chantel? Then we'll move to new business. First, the hiring policy. This was moved by Amina. Do I have a second on this? Jeremy. Amina, do you want to start debate by sort of talking about what this is?
Sure. So this is a new policy. It came out of the equity hiring policy. And the route that we took was creating a hiring policy that was equitable. So it's a pretty thorough document. I guess specifically, the things that I want to outline is that there is a conflict of interest definition separate from the conflict of interest definition that we've been using through our, I guess, bylaws and policies. There's also a measure to ensure that our pools are as diverse as possible, and if there are
Chris, sorry, a point of privilege.
Sure.
I really can't hear Amina or like anyone besides someone who's on the system.
Yeah, just a second. I'll reposition the phone and encourage counselors to speak up. Go ahead, Amina.
Is this a little bit better, Katie?
Yeah, girlfriend.
No problem. Yeah, so we were really looking at how to make our hiring practices more equitable, and one measure that's put in place is that hiring chairs must include a written summary if there is a candidate that is chosen who is not from a designated equity-seeking group. And that statement will be presented to both the general manager, if they're not the chair, as well as the executive committee once it's gone through the general manager. But it's a very extensive hiring policy. We put a lot of thought and work into it. So yeah, if folks have any questions or thoughts, we'd be happy to take them.
Jeremy is the second. You have the opportunity to speak if you would like.
Put a lot of hard work into this, and as the file policy review committee, we're really proud of it. So encourage questions and also your support on it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Does anybody want to speak about this motion? Yeah, if councilors are ready for the question, all in favor of approving the hiring policy as circulated, raise your hand or otherwise indicate. All opposed?
Wait.
Sorry, all in favor of the policy, people on the phone? All opposed? Any abstentions anywhere? The motion carries. Accommodation policy. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? I believe Amina again was the mover, Yazin seconds. Amina, did you want to open up discussion on the accommodation policy?
Yeah,
Or
sure. This policy.
You can also yield your time
sorry,
to Jeremy if you like. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, so this one, it kind of goes part and parcel with the hiring policy in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it just kind of mirrors the Nova Scotia Human Rights Act in terms of what accommodation means. So in a lot of employment situations, what you get are times where people are discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic as noted in the prohibited grounds of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Act. I think it's section 5, I want to say. What this does is it basically says that an employee of the student union needs to be accommodated to the point of undue hardship. And if they're not, then this would trigger their, basically their human rights. Like I said, this is a very close mirror to the Nova Scotia Human Rights Act, and it basically just ensures that people who work for the DSU are protected. So I would encourage, once again, everybody to ask questions and give their support. It's a really good policy.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yasmin is the second. You have the opportunity to speak to this if you'd like. Nope. Anybody else? I'll open the floor to discussion on the accommodation policy.
I have a general question.
Sure, go ahead, Katie.
I'm just wondering, for these policies coming forward, are they kind of out of a necessity for better human resources within the DSU and council, between the staff as well as the executive? Maybe give a little background to like why this isn't already in existence, and like maybe more steps that this could include.
Who wants to tackle this one?
Sure. So before, a lot of our hiring was done through the nominating committee, which was struck out of our bylaws. Since then, it's been done through ad hoc committees, and this was really a way for us to ensure that we're streamlining that process and have checks and balances in place. Yeah, so I guess it is due to a need for better human resource, I guess like mandate. Yeah, so that's why we're bringing them forward.
If I can add to that, Katie, a lot of this stuff union workers already are protected by. This is also to serve as an informational role so that it would breed, better HR practices within the union.
Great, yeah, thank you for speaking to that.
Any other comments on this motion? Our council is ready for the question. All in favor of adopting the accommodation policy as circulated, please raise your hand or otherwise indicate.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Moving along to the Greek Council motion. So this motion, due to the sort of unique nature of it, was moved by Alex. Alex let me know that Corey would be taking over this one. So just before we move in second and have an open debate on it, I'm going to let Corey speak to why this motion came forward, and then going to give an opportunity to a member of the gallery from Greek Council to speak about their view on it, answer any questions that councillors have.
One information.
Sure.
If someone has an amendment, does that?
That would be after the sort of information bit that we'll be having. Sure. So Corey will speak, and then councillors can ask questions to Corey. And then Greek Council will speak, and councillors can ask questions to Greek Council, and then we'll open up the floor for councillor debate on the motion. There are no objections to that procedure. Corey, whenever you're ready.
Great. Yeah, so as Chris said, Alex was the original mover of this motion, but unfortunately she couldn't be here tonight. So I'm taking over. So a lot of this is the work of Alex, and I'm going to be, I'll just do a read over what the motion is, the statement of reasons that are accompanying it, and then do a general sort of highlight reel of Alex's notes that she sent along with it. I will be making an amendment to it, or attempting to make an amendment that takes away the part about the DSU equity policy. I can speak to more of that when I make that amendment, but just heads up there. So the motion currently reads, whereas the Halifax Greek Council, a DSU ratified society, has breached the DSU society policy. It currently says the DSU equity policy, and as well as the terms of the DSU meetings and event management contract, be resolved that Halifax Greek Council's societal booking privileges be revoked, including the ability to book space in the sub, as well as other rentable DSU assets, including the popcorn machine, snow cone machine, barbecue, and will not be granted event ID numbers to book space elsewhere on campus. Exists privileges, including to the Society Reviews Committee's attention that the Halifax Greek Council has broken terms of both the DSU society policy as well as the DSU meetings and event management contract. So according to society policy, this is 12.3, Society Policy Review Committee holds the right to discipline societies based on the following criteria. The society violates society policy, the society fails to notify the Vice President internal that it will be holding an alcohol-related event occurring outside of the using licensed premises or an event involving high-risk activities. Discipline based on any other criteria will be the preview of council. 12.4 reads, depending on the severity of the problem and the number of instances, the society review committee may take the following disciplinary actions. a verbal warning, written warning, probationary period for no more than 1 semester, or suspension of society privileges for a period of no more than 1 semester.
Sorry, Corey, 1 second here. Due respect, but councillors do have this document. It was circulated by Alex. So if you want to give sort of an overview.
Sweet, yeah, I can just do that instead. So it goes on to sort of point out the other parts in which society policy was broken by Halifax Greek Council. The Society Review Committee voted to discipline the council by suspending their society privileges until the end of winter 2018 semester, or I guess that's fall, or no, this semester. It goes into why they sort of want to go forward with more harsher punishments done by council. It outlines how we have that authority to do so. So while there are no legal actions being taken, the Society Review Committee felt it was necessary to reprimand the society on the basis of these actions. So like it was mentioned in the motion, there were several instances of offensive language being used, stolen property, stuff like that has taken place as well since this the event that took place at the U Club happened. And it points to that. Alex points to that in her notes by sort of saying that there were those more instances of breaches in society policy that came up. The most important thing that is highlighted here is the importance of an apology letter to the staff who had to deal with the harassment. And this was requested by the University Club GM. So that's sort of what that motion is. I can answer questions to the best of my ability. I have pretty much the same information that you folks have, but maybe a little bit more context.
Thank you, Corey. Does anybody have any questions for Corey? Jeremy?
Can you give me a little bit more context, or rather give council a little bit more context on the reason for extending beyond what you described there?
Yeah, so it was mostly because they felt, or Alex feels that just cutting privileges until the end of the semester isn't enough because there are only a few weeks left, because that's currently what the authority of the SRC has to do, and so we want to see this extended to another full semester. That way, the effects are felt, essentially. We kind of figured this is around the time that societies are going to be winding down their activities, not being able to book space or have society privileges at this time of the year isn't very detrimental to the society. It's not an effective punishment, essentially. But they do only have that authority to do it for the 1 semester, so they're looking at council to extend that.
Other questions for Corey? All right, and if councillors think of anything, we will be having a debate on this later. I'll now invite somebody from Greek Life, Miranda.
Hello, my name is Miranda.
So, sorry, Miranda, if you want to keep yourself to sort of maximum of 10 minutes sort of argumentation and then questions from councillors.
Yep.
I'll let you know if you come close to.
Am I allowed to pass it around?
Yeah.
Can you stand near the microphone?
Yeah, if you want to come down here and speak, it might be easier for the folks. Thanks, Katie.
Yours good? Yeah.
That's
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Miranda. I was the president of Greek Council for this past year. I'm aware of the allegations brought forward. This past semester, we have had some rough situations, including some unsettled behavior that happened at the University Club at our event on February 3rd, 2018. With that in mind, we have taken the time to restructure council going forward, including rude things. I have resold property tonight. I'm ready. So what happened was, with the event for the University Club, we were not informed that people who were underage were not allowed to come. So basically what happened was, we were told that we were allowed to have people who were not of age. And then last minute we found out that we actually weren't. We talked to Janice, who's the general manager at the University Club, and she agreed to allow us to have people who were under 19 there. So what we were doing was we were IDing people as they were coming in with the security guards, tight security, and we were giving them a mark on their hand. If they were of age, I can't remember exactly, but we were using marks on their hands.
Cool, thank you.
I have Yasmin, then Katie, then Chad. Yasmin?
So the person who verbally harassed the staffers is not someone. It was a person who attended the event, but it wasn't someone who is part of, who holds a position.
Correct. We actually don't know who they are.
What's the position of the person who took the pillars?
They actually are not part of Greek Council at all. They're not part of any fraternity or sorority. That was a miscommunication between the security guards that had written up the report. They were just against, but it was not acceptable behavior either way.
Do you know why they're not here?
The people that did that, no. We didn't invite them. We wanted to just have myself and the person who's going to be the president for next year to keep it as a minimal people.
Point of information, this is a letter that you at work.
Sorry, no, that's.
Do you have any other questions? All right, Katie?
Yeah, so I just have a lot of concerns, but I'll first start with how in general do you hold you and your members accountable, including their guests, in general, whether that's at your meetings or at society events? And then kind of a follow-up, the reason I think behind the misinformation or the ill-informed situation perhaps was the risk management is the preliminary step to use any space on campus as a society. And unfortunately, I've been a part of faculty level societies, and it's a bummer to, take every time you want to host an event, but it's for the insurance, if I understand correctly, and I think that the gravity of the event, I think, has not been understood, but these are issues of harassment and theft, and I think we're not pursuing any legal path, but I think that it should be understood that these are very large allegations, and I think the way that we hold our members accountable is integral to, I think, our steps forward, and that's why I'm curious about how you uphold the standards within your membership.
Am I okay to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the way that Greek Council works is it is a place for sororities and fraternities to meet with each other. What we have done in the past is we have reached out to any organization that have had their members act inappropriately and have their organization take matters into their own hands, as we are more so a place as a meeting place. I understand your concern about this event, and we discussed with the Society Review Board about what happened with the risk management form. Again, it was another miscommunication between myself and the vice president that was there at the time. It's still not an excusable behavior for us not having the risk management form, and understand that if something were to have happened, we would have been held accountable for any legal ramifications. This is why we're looking at restructuring Greek Council, is so that something like this doesn't happen in the future, and to keep everybody safe. Because we just got lucky with this situation, that no one got hurt. Even though we did have guests act inappropriately, this was a minor situation compared to what.
I would argue that folks did get hurt, and that's I think why the apologies are needed. And I think,
sorry, Katie,
you even said yourself,
Katie,
the trust is breached.
Katie, Sorry, just a second. I want to make sure that we're keeping this to questions for Miranda. There will be an opportunity for a debate later.
Sure,
But if you want to keep it to questions for right now, that would be.
Sorry, can I have a follow-up question? Can you give me an example of like how you're restructuring? You said that before, but beyond guest lists, how like do you have a systematic restructuring idea or goal?
So there's other organizations that are part of Greek Council, and there's other organizations that aren't part of it, including ones that are international organizations. We are using the guidelines that they have set in place for their international organizations to help us work towards having a safer environment and precautions, including such as the guest list. I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous right now. I do have a constitution that we've been working on right now, which I'd be happy to share with the council at a later time. I just don't have my laptop right now. But we have been meeting a couple times already since this event happened to restructure so that we're following other societies more to a T. If that explains a bit.
I have Chad next on the speakers list, and then Jeremy, and back to Liam. Chad, go ahead.
Thank you for coming in just to explain what you've explained so far and give us a little bit of your take on it. I'm just wondering what you're hoping to get out of being here and giving us your explanation. Like, what is your goal for coming tonight?
My goal for coming tonight is, seeing as I'm not going to be the president for next year, since we were making changes for Greek Council, I would like the next exec to not be punished as harshly for mistakes that previous members has had. Am I allowed to suggest what I was thinking?
Sure.
Yeah. I would like to suggest us not being ratified until September or then the fall compared to a whole year, seeing as it's this exec's mistakes that were made with communication and risk management, and we're moving forward from that and restructuring the council. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Jeremy.
Is it too early to make an amendment? Are we still in questions?
It is too early. We're still in questions.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Liam?
May I ask multiple questions, or just one for now?
I would encourage, if they're closely related, go, but where there have been sort of a lot of members interested.
Yeah, okay, so quick question. So the person who stole the alcohol, were they a member or were they just a guest?
They were just a guest. They are not a member of any Greek organization.
Okay, cool. And for the third party booking, it's saying that you had one of the sororities book the university club?
No, it was they were using our room after us, so basically every Sunday we would rent out room 224,
okay. And
they would come in afterwards and use the room during that time after we were done our meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions, or are we ready for a debate on this? All right, thank you, Miranda.
Do you want me to stay here?
Yeah, if you want to have a seat in the gallery. If anybody has any super pressing questions for Miranda, I can call on her again.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do I have a second for this motion before we open debate? Yasmin? Corey is the mover. You have the opportunity to speak first if you would like. I'm going to keep councilors to 3-minute speaking time for this.
Can you just zoom in on it a bit?
On this? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think I covered pretty much everything that I needed to say in the opening sort of remarks. Can I make a motion or to amend?
You can make a motion to amend.
I would like to make that motion to amend the whereas clause so that the DSU equity policy is removed.
All right. Do I have a second for that amendment? Chantel?
Are you amending that in the Google Docs? Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, so I just turned it red, the DSU equity policy part.
Oh. Okay.
So we'd just be taking that out. Any debate on this, or councilors ready for the question?
The question on the amendment?
The question on the amendment, yeah. So this is, yeah, if you vote in favor, we remove DSU equity policy from the whereas clause. If not, then we keep DSU equity policy. All in favor of the amendment removing DSU equity policy, raise your hand or otherwise indicate. All opposed, motion carried. All right, back to debate on the main motion. I think Corey still has the floor, but I'll put you on the speakers list.
No, I think I'm good for whatever.
All right, so I have the second next, which is Yasmin, and then Jeremy.
I have no.
Oh, Yasmin, can you see that?
I have nothing to say.
Oh.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Sorry.
All right, I'm going to move to amend this, actually. This might not be so popular to some folks in the room, but I think after hearing Miranda and the actions that the Greek Council is doing, I think a proportionate response to this. And I noticed that in section 12.7 that council has the authority to issue a probationary period. What I would motion to amend this for the punishment is keeping the apology letter certainly, because I think something egregious happened and that can't just go without saying. But ability to yeah.
Winter. This is different.
Until the beginning of the winter semester in 2019.
You violate again probation.
I want to say like I
Did may not have been that exactly.
This is
What this reads now and his responsibility to.
A response from and be taken forwarding and versus I
Amount of time.
20 opportunity.
Does that reflect?
Yes, I think that does. That's all I would add.
All right, so Chantel suggests that amendment. Do I have a second for that? Jeremy? Chantel, did you want to speak to this?
Nothing further unless there's questions from the councillors.
Jeremy, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind council we're not punishing Greek council for past actions that might not have connections to what happened here. I think that's a ridiculous thing to use as a basis for this disciplinary thing. I think we have to really keep proportionality in mind. And what happens when we push societies away from the DSU, that they just end up doing things that aren't under the DSU's control and don't have access to DSU resources. So I think that this council should really keep in mind that and not just be vindictive for the purposes of doing it because we hold power. I think that we need to use this power responsibly to make sure that our membership is able to interact with us well.
Yep.
That's all I got to say. I support this amendment.
All right, Katie.
are also representative of our, and I agree that it shouldn't.
Amendment.
it's really pretty.
All right.
Sorry.
Yep, just got it. So that's added in the first clause just after the word council. Was I correct?
Okay.
How there were to discipline Halifax Creek, please raise your hand or otherwise.
Written or submitted? Sorry.
Written and mailed tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand or otherwise. The motion.
I urge everyone to vote for this.
Thank you. Yes, and Ali, did you want to speak to this? Nope. Any debate on this motion?
Just a point of information.
Sure.
Is Is it York only, or do we have people on strike too?
No, we don't have to.
So it's just
York and Carleton.
oh, Carleton University, not Carleton. Okay, that's where I got confused.
Very understandable. Any other debate on this motion? Our council is ready for the question. All in favor of this motion, please raise your hand or otherwise indicate.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The motion carries. Moving along to the justice. Speak to this.
So, janitor's employer immediately. So this
It didn't rehire for.
what happened was and could not be rehired with the incoming owner or organization.
Let's sort of clarify your question.
Yeah, somewhat. I just have difficulty with situations that we only have one side of the story and making statements and things. So I'm just a little.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I know what it is we're saying.
Absolutely. Any other debate on this motion? Montel, did you have anything?
I can circulate a news article if that is any help.
Yeah, if Chris, if I can be next one.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you go now, Katie?
Sure. I think this comes as well as like a lot of anti-Black racism that occurs daily by across our campuses, across our city, across the province, and I think this is just another example. And I think it's an incredible action that these workers are taking, and I think it would be great if our union could stand in solidarity with them formally through this council. A lot of us have been there throughout the week. I was able to go on Monday, and a lot of young students as well as students from across the province have been down at Founders Square on Hollis Street. I think we could have probably put more to this motion, but I think I thought that the case was pretty clear, whether the logistics of the wording needs to be changed, but I think the intent around the motion is that it could be more explicit, but I think the intent was it was meant to just stand in solidarity with these janitors who are, advocating for themselves and then being punished for it, and especially when we have anti-Black racism that is coming up a lot in the reports from the government, but ignored in practice, and I think it's just an example of that.
Thanks. I got something from Amina a little bit before this with sort of the intention of putting it up, but it doesn't make much sense to put it up because it is very difficult to read. So I did circulate it just a minute ago to councillors. It should be in your inbox. If you want to take a look at that, there are materials in that email related to all three of these. I want to be clear that this isn't me taking a stance on anything. Amina had sent these to me. These all come from do councillors want to take a brief recess to look over this, or are councillors comfortable voting?
I'm comfortable voting.
All right. So, for the Justice for Janitors Solidarity motion, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? The
I urge you folks.
Thank you. Katie Mazal.
I just have a question for Chantal or whoever knows
As well, but
Oh, that was so eloquently put. Thanks, Sean.
All opposed? This was something that executive who would like to take over this discussion. The incoming executive information council about the strategies. By which
About about the general meeting. Maybe about general meeting. No.
I don't know. My capitalization is inconsistent on general. When in doubt, capitalize.
Point of privilege, Chris. I think the committee said can approve, not up.
Right, you're correct. Casey, does this, are you looking at the Google Doc?
Yeah.
Does it?
The general meeting and yeah, no, maybe I'll leave it at that, and if councilors want to add anything else, they can.
All right, so Katie has suggested an amendment to the motion. Does it have a second? Chantel? Any debates? Katie, did you want to speak to this at all?
Yeah, this just comes as, I think, a great practice to ensure that we do get more engagement for the meeting that needs to come up. We haven't had a general meeting that's met quorum in a very long time. And we, I think, have a responsibility to our membership to be more proactive in that. And I think council has the power to do this. And I think we should use that. We've, this year, I think, let a lot of balls drop around being proactive and foreseeing the need of support of council, whether it's to our executive or to our general members. So I think this amendment displays that and hopefully changes that.
Thank you. Any other debate on this motion, or amendment rather?
Chris, can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Cameron.
Okay, well, I guess it's kind of two things to add. Is there like a proposed timeline or
Until up to provide strategy
terms just for the city? We were going to have to have it
for the next.
Campuses include want to be reflected.
for data to
Introduce it. This is on behalf of myself.
As long as I. Any other notices of motion, Chantel?
I would like to notice that next council, we will have the opportunity to approve the 2018.
And me.